lives while raising families, breaking barriers, and redefining what it means to lead with purpose. I'm your host, Laura Caroffino, and today we have an absolute powerhouse joining us today. She's a woman who has been crushing it in real estate for 3 decades. She's flipped over 52 houses, been featured on HGTV, and built a multi-million dollar empire. But here's what makes her story even more incredible is that she's doing all of this while paving the way for other women to build generational wealth. So, ladies, let me introduce you to Ginger Faith. She is a real estate broker, builder, CEO of Golden Canyon Properties, and the founder of both Your Wealth Network meetup group and the Women's Wealth Network in the San Francisco Bay Area. She's been seen on Fox, CBS, NBC, Yahoo Finance. I mean, what has she not done? And she's an Airbnb superhost who bought her first large profitable commercial real estate investment back in 1994. But what I love most about Ginger is that she's not just building wealth, she's teaching other women how to compress time and retire in under 3 years and adapt to changing markets like seriously a true leader. So welcome, Ginger. I'm so glad you're here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, you have just an amazing background, and I would love for you to share like how you got started in real estate.
Well, I got started in real estate because I had a ministry and I wanted to, and it was a volunteer ministry, but it was very important to me. And I wanted passive income. So I started figuring out ways, how could I get passive income? And the first thing I needed to do was get income. So I was working these odd jobs. I was a little entrepreneur back when I was in my teenage years. So I had little businesses. And then I started a business. My goal was to have a part-time business and make a full-time income. And when you set your mind to something and you don't think that you could fail, you just go ahead and manifest it. So I tried a few things that didn't work, and then I found a business that did work. I could work about 15 hours a week and make six figures back in 1991, which made, was phenomenal. And then I started realizing, wow, I have all this money coming in. What am I going to do with it? So I started thinking I really wanted to have passive income. And so I bought my first six family apartment house back when interest rates were 15.5%. And yeah, 15.5% with 2 points. And I thought I got a screaming deal. So
Oh boy.
so that's how I started. It was an old dilapidated Victorian in a great neighborhood. And it was just really gut instinct. It wasn't, there's so many podcasts that tell you what to do now. But I was basically cheap and I didn't want to lose money. And I thought, well, I could do something with this. And I could, I had a vision for design. I didn't even know it, but it was just there inherently. And I thought I saw this really cool building. I'm like, oh, I could rent this out. And I was doing the numbers on a piece of paper. I'm like, okay, I can get this for rent. And the mortgage would be this. And it's like, okay, let's go for it. And then I just jumped in with the money that I had made with my part-time business. And then I liked it because it was really cool. I moved into one of the buildings, one of the apartments, and then I very quickly it paid for itself, and I got income, and it felt like magic. So let me do this again. So I'm a reader, so I kept reading books, and I read a book by Robert Allen. One of them was Nothing Down. And one of the things that stood out to me was he said, if you buy one house every 10 years for 10, one home, and then pay down the mortgage, there's your retirement. And I thought, this is such a neat idea. Why isn't anybody doing this? So I decided, well, what if I get six in one shot? So it's just,
Kind of set it up. I love it.
yeah, I was just like, it was just all raw instinct. It was so, I spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars on my education. But back in the day, information was not as available as it is now. It was you had to pay a lot of money for education. Books were pretty reasonable, but I was always learning, going to seminars, going to workshops, and just trying to figure out what's the next best thing. What opportunities are out there. So it's that drive. It's that drive to see, what's around the next bend. That drove me to get in and then to keep pedaling along.
Now, did anybody like guide you in this process or like what made you think real estate when you were thinking about did any
Um,
influence or any like family in real estate at all?
no family, no family, nobody. Actually, I didn't know anybody who was investing. So I'm trying to think. Nothing comes to mind. I think I was just like, I was into business books. Like, hey, what can I learn about business? And real estate just kind of like one of the many books. I would read this one, that one, this one, that one, and just see what piqued my interest. Then I encourage everybody to do that now. What kind of read and see what's out there, see what quality is out there, and get rid of the stuff that doesn't interest you or is not for you. But kind of see what's out there, see what opportunities out there. So yeah, no, I I was the oddball in my whole sphere of influence. Everybody's like, what did she just do? But I was very comfortable with it. It was weird. I'm not even sure why. I think it's a God thing. It just pushes you to do stuff. And, um, I like to say I had more brawn than brains.
Oh,
Like
that's
I
good.
had more guts. I had more guts. So I was like, oh, let me just try this. Let's see what's the worst that could happen, right? And then
You
it just
know, you put your mind to something, you can do it. I'm a full believer, if and
yeah, well, when you don't have blocks, right? So the problem is if you see somebody fail or if you've failed and you've got that in your nervous system, now you're more reticent. But I was too innocent. I hadn't seen anybody who succeeded or failed. I was so that innocence of that, just like, oh, that's what happened. It just it can benefit you by being ignorantly blissful sometimes. Sometimes, not always, but in this case, it worked out.
but that is, you said something really good about the mindset. How did you, I'm sure you've had probably some struggles when you first started. Is there any roadblocks that you came across that you had to overcome to get to where you're at?
Oh no, I was just like smooth sailing the whole way. It was easy for me. No, actually, the reality is, I discovered Tony Robbins, back in 1991. And at the time, he was kind of an oddball. He was kind of like a weird weirdo, like, oh, he walks on fire. What's that? That's kind of weird, right? So I was a little bit odd. So I kind of like read him on the sly, but I loved his work. And I started listening to the Power Talk tapes voraciously. To me, he was like oxygen. At the time, I really liked his message. And the fact is, I had a very, very limited environment. Very limited on so many ways. My mom, God rest her soul, my mom had schizophrenia, and she medicated through alcoholism to kind of forget all of the pain of the schizophrenia. My dad was gone, and so I didn't have much of a role model. And so mentally, that just causes its own set of human challenges. It's a world of things that I could go into. And, she brought us into a cult-like religion very early in my age that I had to overcome. And that was very heavy into mind control. And so there were a lot of things I had to unearth and look at. And so the cool thing I like to say is that when I was 30 years old, I had accumulated it was a very strange situation, because on one hand, I was doing these really cool things, buying these apartment buildings. And on the other hand, I was mentally split in two. I was listening to Tony Robbins, rah, 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 this is cool. And I was excited about that. And I would go back into the church, which felt like an emotional prison, a mental prison. But I felt like I had to be there for safety because my mom was so unstable. So I was like, I had a split psyche in my 20s. It was extremely painful. It was like like I had this one part of me, it was go, 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 accelerator, put the pedal to the metal. And then I would go into this, emotional dungeon and with mental vice clamps. And it was like this very intense time of just, well, depression and struggle. But it came to a point where I became mature enough at around 30 years old, where I left my husband and I left the church. And it was painful because I had no friends. They'd excommunicated me and I had nobody because they didn't allow you to have friends outside the church because they were all from the devil. So it was the real estate that allowed me a 2-year sabbatical.
Mm.
I moved away 45 minutes away from all my everything. I come back for 2 days to work my business, tend to my real estate, like, collect rent checks or whatever. And then I would run away up to the Cambridge area, Cambridge, Massachusetts, right around there. And I would stay and I would take classes and I would go to the gym and I would eat salads and I would meditate. And I learned what meditation was because they weren't allowed to meditate. That was from the devil. Everything was from the devil. So I just started doing things that today is like all of vogue, self-healing things, labyrinth walks and grounding. I would like walk on the grass for an hour and then I would take a nap and then I would read like things that I thought would propel me and I would ask questions. I found some amazing mentors who were very worldly but kind. And I was asking a million questions. I was literally like a little child at 30 years old, even though I had all this real estate and I was doing all these cool things in a lot of ways because I was extracted from this cult like vice clamp mental prison. It was like brand new. The world was brand new to me. And it was a powerful time. And I like to say I was graced because the real estate kept pumping out those rent checks.
I'm sure.
uh, right. And I was like, I didn't have to, if I had gone through that with had to do a 9 to 5, I don't know how I would have done it. I literally don't know how I would have done it, but I didn't have to because my real estate pumped out money for me. And so I decided like it was organic for me. And a lot of people ask about this. I'm writing my book about 21 ways to stop chasing hustle and build the life that you love using real estate as a tool. And the fact is, real estate's challenging, and there's a lot of difficult things because you're dealing with people, dealing with things that break down. I mean, there's all sorts of things. However, on the other hand, it's a very powerful tool, and if you learn how to use the tool properly, it can give you the lifestyle that you want, a lifestyle of less pressure, more ease. You can get your baseline covered. And I think everybody needs to think about getting their baseline covered without being on the hamster wheel.
Mm.
Because we're not in a place, we're living in a really exciting time now. Information is ubiquitous. We can do so much. But at the same time, our economy is we have these two tracks, right? We've got inflation that's very challenging, and then we've got opportunity that's there. But I really feel that women need to, and men too, we all need to think about, can we get our finances under control so that we can live our best lives? Define what our best lives are. So we're not always like on a hamster wheel, struggling. And real estate is a really great tool to do that.
Now, what you started at a very young age in real estate. So, what would you say to someone who would like to go into it now with everything that you know that is happening in the world today? Like, how would they start? Like, let's say I want to go and invest, and what would I do? What do I need to do? And what if I don't have money? What if what do you need to do?
Okay, start by reading my book that I haven't finished yet. How's that?
That would be great.
Yeah, no, it's like oh manuscript. I gotta get to it. Okay.
Yes, yes.
21 ways of stop chasing hustle and use real estate as a tool, right? So what does that mean? That means I have 21 different tools in the toolbox, right?
Mm,
What the first thing is, what are your goals? What do you really, really want? Visualize your life that you really want to have.
right.
And really get and figure out your why. Is your why does your why revolve around children? Does your why revolve around traveling? What is your why? What's your driver? Is it about freedom? Is it just you're tired of waking up so early, having a 2-hour commute, and then you're like, why am I doing this? Right, over and over again. So, what is your why? Really focus on that and focus on it daily. That's one thing about an entrepreneur is you can't just wake up in the morning and go to your job. You've got to be focusing on your life
Mhm.
and the direction of your life. And even though I've set a nice foundation for myself, I still wake up and I have bigger goals, right? So to answer your question, the editor of my book told me, I was so excited after editing your book. I decided to start a company and I'm going to do Airbnb arbitrage. Right? I was like, Yay. I'm like, okay, we're going to put that story. You better do well. Like, you better do well because your story is coming in my book, right? Because we need one of the things I need in the book is more stories. I've got a lot of ideas and, and
I'll be
theory,
your
but
guinea
also,
pig. I'll be your
what's that?
I'll be your guinea pig for it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, well, you have to read my manuscript. Try one of the things, right? So, some people just want like, let me help pay my bills. So, one of the things I laugh. I have an ADU in my backyard. Okay, I have my home's paid for, and I'm very blessed for that. And it's paid for in Silicon Valley, which is crazy here.
Right.
But my ADU pays for all of the other bills. It pays for the taxes. It pays for the insurance. It pays like because it's like that's just how it works. Right. So I gave up. So I created an ADU, and then now the ADU pushes up income so that my expenses are paid. That's like a baseline. That's like a baseline. So find out what it is. What is your baseline? And really commit to it. This is obviously wasn't always like this. I bought this house at the top of the market right before the crash.
Oh yeah.
Right. So obviously it wasn't always like, really, really a simple thing. So find out what it is you want. Some people just like, if you can just take some of these bills off my plate, what can you do? Maybe you can just hire yourself as a co-host for Airbnb people. You can hire yourself out. You can get like be a property manager. Learn the skills of being a property manager. That's getting involved without getting your pocketbook involved.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, it could be somebody else who has like a store of cash in their 401k. Now the laws are changing, and then you can take a lot of your 401ks, you can start investing in real estate. So you can take, let's just say 401k money that's just like it's kind of dawdling around, and you would say, okay, I'm going to take a quarter of that and let me invest in something that's going to get a bigger return. Now, the biggest thing that I have to really say that we need to all learn is how to underwrite. And the reason is it's so easy to cut a check and lose money. It's very easy to cut a check. Anybody can cut a check and lose money if you have the money, if you have the money to cut. But what happens when you want a mortgage? Most people, if you have ever applied for a mortgage, the bank wants to know everything about you,
Right.
right? They want your bank statements and your tax returns, and they check your credit. And you had one blip on your credit 5 years ago. They wanted a letter of explanation as to why you had that
Right.
one, like
Yeah.
you were 30 days late on your T-Mobile bill 5 years ago. Why?
Right.
Right. So, but banks have done very well for themselves over the years.
Mm-hmm. They have.
Okay. Why? Because they know how to underwrite. They know they don't trust you, and they set up systems and they train their underwriters to make sure, and then they appraise the property. They sometimes they'll do two appraisals. If the market is shifty, they'll do an appraisal at the last minute to make sure the property is still worth right. So there's so many ways the bank's always like safeguard, 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 safeguard. Richard Branson said, take care of your underside and your upside will take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Protect your downside, right? And that's, I think, not everybody does that. You have money and then you just spend it, right? And
Yeah.
there are some people who are they're great underwriters. They're very afraid, they're not afraid, but they're very like picky, and they want to like dig in and make sure everything is safe.
Yeah.
But underwriting is a skill. You can look up how to do that, but you can use your bank as a model. And I would say that if someone's going to get started, you either, number one, don't use any of your own money and don't use anybody else's money. Do something like property management, become a real estate agent if that's a thing that you want to do, a mortgage broker, something like you're working for someone or with people, whatever, and you're getting your time in exchange for knowledge, right? Apprentice under somebody who's phenomenal. That's a really smart thing to do. Great to get a great mentor. Just find the best agent in the area that you like. And if they're an agent investor, even better, learn from them and then follow their lead, and just dive in, get kind of swim in the river, right? And that's a great way to get involved. Go to real estate investment meetings. That's another way to get involved. Learn, learn, learn. You've got to always be learning. So don't use your money. Do something that's simple that you can just start. Like I would say that's probably the smartest thing to do. Don't use your money. Don't use someone else's money. Use your time in exchange for knowledge. Apprentice. Think of yourself as an apprentice in some way, shape, or form in the real estate market, orienting toward what you want to ultimately do, which you may not know in the beginning. In that case, you go to this real estate meetup and you say, oh, they're talking about flipping homes. That sounds interesting. Oh, this one's talking about buying notes. That sounds interesting, but don't do anything. Just learn. Get your general education, your liberal arts degree in real estate by learning. Go into bigger pockets, listen to podcasts like this, listen to other, authorities who know what they're doing, and learn, and use your time in the beginning for an exchange of information and money. And then once you start getting comfortable and set your targets and your goals, once you start getting comfortable or your goals start becoming bigger, maybe in the beginning you're like, oh, I just want to build one ADU on my empty lot in the back of, I have a spot in my backyard. I'm going to build an ADU and I'm going to Airbnb it out. We'll go to the bank, see what the financing, go to ADU companies. That's a simple way. If you have nothing, become a property manager. So just, I got to get my book written.
Yes, you do.
21 ways I gotta go. Okay, I'm working. I promise. It's the manuscript's written. It's been edited first draft. But yeah, that's the reason why I wrote it, because I think people ask me this question a lot, like, where do I start? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know you, but there's a place for you if you're called towards this, right?
Right.
And it's obviously it's not for everybody, but and I honestly I don't think everybody has to be a career real estate person to do very well. I know people who have had very successful businesses and then they take the money and they park it in quality real estate. Beautiful.
Mm.
Beautiful. I mean, it happens even with the famous people have done that, right? They get all this money and they're like, oh, now what, right? And then now they're buying real estate, and but they can afford the real estate in New York City and in Los Angeles and so on. So, yeah.
You mentioned something. I was going to ask you about what your opinion is on the Airbnb arbitrage. Um, I've been looking into it, very interested in it. I know several people that have about around 50-ish properties that they arbitrage. And it's pretty impressive what they bring in
Yeah.
monthly. It's,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's very simple. You have to use Mashvisor, use AirDNA.
mhm.
I did a class on that in the beginning, how to actually make money doing it. I've pivoted to commercial real estate right now. So I still have my Airbnbs, but I never grew it to the extent that I wanted to, because I started growing it and then I pivoted to commercial real estate. So that's where I'm at right now. However, use Mashvisor, use AirDNA, look at the data points. Airbnb has like the hottest markets, or look in your backyard easier. Look in your backyard. If your numbers work in your backyard, then by all means, you work your backyard. Silicon Valley, it's not that easy. You've got to really know your numbers, and you've got to really get a landlord who's willing to give you the property at a very fair to decent price. Plus, you have to, if it's a condo, you've got to absolutely connect with the HOA, make sure they allow it, because you could go through all of the hassle of buying all the furniture, setting everything up, and you could be like, wow, look at, I'm making money, and get a letter from the HOA saying, you can't do this. So check that out first. Get licensed. I'm battling back and forth in one of my Airbnbs. They added an extra license during, I have two licenses. They added an extra license during COVID. I didn't even know about it. They never sent me an application. I didn't know about it. I just kept my two other ones. And then they started giving me all sorts of grief. So I'm still working with that, negotiating with that. So find out find out what all the licenses are, and some areas are pretty easy. It's like, oh, give us $250 and you're good. Just they just send a letter to the neighbors and and that's it. Others there, you have to have a fire inspection. You've got to have, I mean, it's just very onerous. So know the area. You want to go with places that have traditionally pretty much, they're comfortable with short-term rentals,
Mhm.
even for the Airbnb boom. Um, there are areas that are always tourism oriented. So if you can go in those areas, that's great, or diversify. So if you're going to get 50, you're very, I mean, it's awesome to have them in the same area, except what if it happens what happened in Texas where everything is shut down?
Oh, yeah.
Mm,
Not good.
right, and you're all in the same, you're right in the same place, right?
Yeah.
Then your whole empire is shut down and you are bankrupted for a very, very long time, because there's no way you're going to be 50. That's a lot, right? So
Yeah.
the larger the volume, the better, but also the more opportunity for disaster if something goes wrong, right? So you can, if one ADU, you got a problem with it, okay, it's a pain, but you got 50 and you got a big shutdown, you got a big problem. You basically just give back the keys to the bank and then go to Europe to heal up for the next 6 months because you just got screwed. But if you've been diversified, if you diversified in many different cities, or if you just say, you know what, let me just get a hotel.
Yeah.
Let me buy a hotel because the hotel market's distressed now. And if you're talented enough to do 50 Airbnbs, you've got 50 roofs, you've got 50 mechanical systems, you've got 50 plumbing systems, you've got,
Oh, yeah.
uh, right. Why
Yeah.
not just convert it to a really nice hotel? Find a deal on a hotel that's, struggling, and take it over, again, underwrite it, get your numbers, and then do it that way. Then, instead of, like, for example, one thing is you have to pay a good amount of money for people. I've heard Airbnb people say, I pay my people $20 an hour to clean. Well, that's fine if you've got an Airbnb and an Airbnb and an Airbnb in a hotel,
Mhm.
because you're okay. But if somebody's going out of their way and they're cleaning a 4-bedroom house, you got to pay them 150 bucks, 100 to 150 bucks, depending on how big the house is, right?
Right.
And now if you consolidate it to a hotel, by volume, you could save money. So so those are just creative ways of playing with that. I hope I answered your question. I think I went up on a tangent.
No, I'm very fascinated. At the hotel, so where would someone find hotels? Where's the best place to find like real estate like that?
I would go online and go and say distressed hotels, and you'll probably end up with Crexy
Mhm.
or CoStar or LoopNet, RI Marketplace. Um, Yeah. But just Google it, just go to ChatGPT. I want to buy a hotel. Where do I go? Right. And they'll give you some websites. But yeah, usually Crexy, those places. And then you can even get on an alert system with Crexy and with CoStar. So
Oh,
when something meeting your criteria, like say, hey, I want it to be 30% vacant. I want it to be a C class that I can convert to a B class. I want a good neighborhood. I want this and that, whatever your criteria are, figure out what the criteria you want. And then set up an alert so that you get them, and you get pinged when something comes up that you're looking for.
oh, okay, that's good. All right, I'm gonna do that. Um, why not? I
Yeah,
think
why not?
why not? Why not? Now I do want to talk about something you've talked about. You compress time to retire in under 3 years. That sounds like almost too good to be true. Can you tell me how that is possible?
Yeah, so I want to tell you, my first disclosure is I'm a career real estate person. So I never thought about compressing time ever. I was just like doing my thing. I'm like, oh, let me do this, let me do that, make money here, make money there. And then I had a friend about 7, 8 years ago. I met her, and she knew nothing about real estate, very little, very little. She had done many other different things. She had sold 2 houses, but she was very skilled. She was a good salesperson, very smart, very strategic. And she decided that she wanted financial independence, and she wanted it quickly. So she did this in 3 years and came to me for advice during the whole thing.
That's amazing.
Right. So let me tell you what she did. And that is just one story, because once this happened, I was like, well, what was dramatized for me was she lived in my area, and we get together all the time. And She was picking my brain. "Doo-doo-doo, what about this? What about that?" And I turned her on to a great lawyer. I like, handyman, like you name it. It was all this stuff.
Oh,
And and she would make amazing food, and we would just hang out, and we would talk to all hours of the night, and we had a great time. But then when she flipped this property, made multiple seven figures in 3 years, she moved away. She got tired of the California politics and moved far, far away to a red state and started an organic garden and built her dream home. And now she has a YouTube cooking channel.
really? Oh my gosh, you'll have to sit.
And so,
Yeah, no.
yes, yes, it's Auntie Yum Yum's kitchen. But that was the funny thing is she was such a great cook. I'm like, she just caught me going, I'll tell you everything. Just keep that food coming, right? And so
Just feed me.
yeah, just maybe she is an amazing cook. And I'm like, that's exactly what she should be doing. And like, so she farmed a table. She started this amazing garden. It became like this forest of a garden,
That's amazing.
and then she takes it and then she makes it, so basically she just, now they're looking for another deal. Her and her partner are looking for another deal, but she's been like semi-retired for 4 years, I think, or something like that. And planting her fruit trees and her dog and her 10 acres. And so that piqued my interest. And that was 5 years ago and something like that. And then I started then I joined the group that she's in, which is the J. Scott Shield Commercial Academy, which that was so crazy. I saw him in 2010 when she told me she was thinking of going to see him. I'm like, oh, he's great. Go, you go. And then I'm like, I didn't do it. So I'm fine. And that's part of what I'm just like a career person. But then I'm like, I need to step this up. Let me see if I can step it up, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I started seeing all these people who are stepping it up, and that got me excited. And I said, look at this. This is really cool. So I started meeting all these people with different stories doing something similar. And so that background, to answer your question, um, first, I think that one of the most there's two important pieces. One of them is knowing your natural genius.
Mhm.
Okay, so you might be a natural people person. Another person is a natural underwriter. They love to do the pro formas and analyze deals and crunch the numbers. Some people love digging in that, and other people are like builders. They love to build. Anything with their hands and mind together. They love that. And there are other skill sets, obviously, but finding your natural genius, because real estate is so comprehensive, there's room for you. There's room for you to focus on your natural genius as long as you have other people surrounding you that also have complementary skill set that you can connect with and do like a mastermind group.
Yeah, I love that.
One. Number two, and this is really important. Years ago, many years ago, I remember Donald Trump saying, like in the 80s, like, if you got to think big. And I had no idea what that meant. I was like, what does that mean? I was like, well, it's really simple. Think big.
Hmm.
So instead of a flip, okay, think she flipped 56 units.
Oh,
If
yeah.
she had flipped one, she would have got 100 grand, maybe 200 grand in a really great market. I did a flip. Our team made 1.25. We made like 1.5 million, but that was like a unique market, yeah. And it wasn't just a flip; it was like a build. But even that was thinking big because we're thinking in a big market, like big market, big, high end finishes, all that stuff. So thinking big. So the bigger you think, the more potential for disaster,
That too.
but the more potential for massive gain. That
Yes.
amplifies the need to underwrite, amplifies the need to make sure you have people that you trust. Right, massive need for you have to trust, and then you have to hire fast, fire quickly. If someone doesn't, you've got to be management. It's management intensive. So for those 3 years, they were in lockdown, really focusing on getting all of these apartments, done. So they raised the rent from $750 to like $1,650 a month, but they renovated them, and they attracted a specific demographic.
Mm.
It was farm workers, but they started pulling from Silicon Valley because of a route. There was a strategic connection between Silicon Valley, San Jose, and this area where they were, and they started pulling people from that and seeing that made this apartment complex beautiful. And then they saw the beautiful model home, then they
Oh,
started like quick, but they did it quick, quick, quick. So it's speed, it's thinking big, it's thinking, volume. And when you do that, again, you need more people and you need more skill set, but it can happen. And she literally didn't know anything about real estate, really. Like I said, we were meeting. I was eating her food, giving her, guidance like 2 to 3 times a week, or she'd call me. But she wasn't just me; she was asking everybody about this, and I was one of her key counselors. But brilliant move, and it was so inspiring. And I started saying, so when you see one person do that, like the 4 minute mile when Roger Bannister, nobody thought that anybody could run a mile in 4 minutes until Roger Bannister did, and then everybody started doing it, right? So now we're in such a cool place in our world. We're seeing many people do many things in faster time. And so it's really a matter of, do you want it enough? If it's something that you want, then you develop a plan and you go for it. And that's what she did, and then many others. That was just the catalyst. And so that's why after after that happened, it made me think. And then very shortly after, I actually joined the academy that I told her to join. And then I've met like just an extraordinary level of people, and I've learned so much in just a couple of years. And now I'm making offers. I just made an offer on 88,000 square foot shopping center last week. Right. So it's changed from the Airbnb. Right. It's changed. Right. But it took me 2 years to even get to the level where I was comfortable with that. A year and a half ago, I saw a really good deal for about $2.5 million, and I was like, oh, I don't know, because I wasn't sure about commercial real estate, residential. I 2 years before that, I bought a house for $2 million, and we sold it for 4.8 because that was in my comfort zone. I knew the area. I'm like, okay, this is fine. And I was very comfortable with that. But to put down the same amount of money on a retail shopping center, that wasn't my comfort zone. That was something I had to. So I lowballed the guy, and he goes, oh, "You shouldn't have lowballed me because that was really worth it." And now I know it was really worth now I know it was worth it. And now I laugh with the guy. I'm like, "Okay, well, find me another one, right?" So find me another one. He goes, "Those don't come around all the time." Not with him anyway. But so yeah, so it's a growth process, and it's really just a matter of what it is you want. And that's why again we do 21 ways. What do you want? What do you really want, right? And then what you might want today, in 5 years you'll be like, oh, done that. I want to do something else, right? Growth. If growth is important to you, which I believe that we all have a divine spark, that we want to grow in some way, in our own unique way. But again, I just think that real estate is a tool that can help us get a baseline so that we can jump from that, like my friend did.
yeah, that is pretty amazing. And just like being able to take, not being in it, and then she just went big, go, go big or go home, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
she just
yeah.
jumped in it. And it paid off. That's incredible. Have you ever being in this industry, you probably have seen some mistakes and stuff. What do you think is the biggest mistake you see that women make when they first get into real estate investing?
Oh, there's probably a lot of them. I think trusting too quickly and too easily,
Yeah.
maybe that could be one of them. Um, um, that's probably a big one. Trusting too easily. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think that women can be too trustworthy sometimes, or not knowing how to do their due diligence.
Mm.
The whole bird with it, what happened with Bernie Madoff was like horrifying, right? And I've dealt with people like that, scammers. Okay, but
Yeah.
there is a weakness. There are weakness in all of us, and that's wanting to trust and lazy, being mentally lazy, wanting to trust somebody because you don't want to do your own homework, or you don't want to ruffle. You want to be agreeable. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. Okay, I'd probably say that's probably a really big mistake.
Yeah.
It's just being mentally lazy, not willing to dig in. One of my dearest friends is an assassin for an underwriter. She's unbelievable.
Mm.
She rips things to shreds, and she's been such a model for me. I'm like, oh my God, she's amazing. And, her and her husband have bought 8 large commercial buildings in about 6 years,
Wow.
like 135,000 square feet, 40,000 square feet, you know, 25,000 square, like big, big, like, and they've gone through many more that they haven't bought. Why? Because she will detect problems and she'll rip it to shreds. She'll like, this is not a good deal, and here's why. And she just goes and, there's places where you can get due diligence checklists because obviously there's a lot of landmines. There's a lot of, I mean, just the other day, I was evaluating a property and mis, there was so much misinformation
Mm.
in the operating memorandum. And I'll give you an example. And this was just one of many like that I saw. And it was exciting to see it. For me, that's exciting to see it because in the beginning, 2 years ago, I'm like, what? What is this? Like, I didn't know. Um, Tesla charging stations are really cool and they're a nice source of revenue. If you have a shopping center that has a Tesla charging station, you're going to make money every month. That's cool. That adds to the value. You're adding extra service for your clients. And now the clients are sitting there charging their car and they're going into Safeway or they're going into the store, right? And they're getting gas. I mean, getting gas. They're getting, other things. So the operating memorandum said that in January of 2026, there was going to be a Tesla charging station. They're going to make $32,000 a year. And I said to the broker, do you have a contract? Does the seller have a contract? Well, no. Okay. Well, Tesla stopped doing those charging stations right now. And if you don't have a contract, there is no charging station. That was sitting there right there. They're telling me that they have $32,000 in revenue that they want me to underwrite as accurate. But, they say trust but verify. Well, would a bank trust that? No, a bank would not trust that. A bank would say, where's the contract?
Right.
How do we know? They would probably call Tesla company and find
Yeah.
out there's a contract, right? Right. So when I went and I drove the property, I found out that there was actually a Tesla charging station right across the street at another shopping center that's brand new built.
Mm.
So not only so again, this is just one example, right? Of it, but depending on what you're doing, you can't ever afford to trust anything. But just if you go back to a bank, what does a bank do? They don't trust anybody. Why have they done so well financially? Because they don't trust anybody. So, trust but verify, and I think that's probably, I would go with that. And the whole Bernie Madoff thing, nobody was verifying. Everybody was just writing checks,
Mm.
right? They were just saying, oh, this sounds good. So-and-so is doing well. So, and that's obviously it's human nature because it happens over and over again. And scammers know that. They know that they can give whoever gives you the best dog and pony show. If they can get you to be emotionally connected, they tweak your greed and fear glands,
Yeah.
and then they walk off with the loot and they go to Hawaii, and then you get left with a bill. So there you go. So there you go.
Yes. I mean, I've fallen victim to scammers, unfortunately. It's a a hard lesson to learn. Do you know?
Important to unpack your own weaknesses and your own vulnerabilities, right? That's the important thing, because otherwise you're just going to walk around like a victim forever. If you say, look, I take responsibility. What did I do? What did I not see? Why was I, that's the important thing, because then you can empower yourself for next time. Because next time when you walk away, you're gonna feel good about yourself. You're like, I learned my lesson, and then I can warn other people, watch out for this, and don't be don't be the fear of missing out or the greed. We have to look at ourselves. That's where the point of power is, right?
Mm.
Looking at ourselves. Other than that, we just like that jerk. He like that doesn't empower you. It just like
No,
keeps
it
you running
doesn't.
around in a circle, right? And chasing it's fine if you want to try to chase them, but only if it makes sense. Because most of the time, those people know exactly what they're doing. They're collapsing LLCs, like that they're throwing out their old underwear. They're like, just, and they have all sorts of tricks, and you got to be aware of that. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I know you've got to hop off here in a few minutes. I have one more question I really would love to chat with you about if you have the moment. And it was, You founded the Women's Wealth Network. Why is it important to you to create a space specifically for women in the real estate investing?
Well, let's just look at commercial real estate, for example. 97% of all commercial real estate is owned by men,
Mm,
3% by women. It is by far the best way to get yourself into financial orbit is owning commercial real estate, but only 3% are women. Okay. Now, of the 3% that are women, one and a half have inherited the property from a man.
okay. Come on, ladies, we gotta get going.
Okay, so that's an example, right?
Yes.
Um, so I do think it's important. There are women are just as capable, but we have to be trained in certain ways, right? So I just think it is important for women to look at, especially now. Okay, I you know I I think it's beautiful when a man and woman can work together and then build their dreams together. That is the gold standard. It's wonderful, right? If you can have like a beautiful team, or people partnerships, whatever that is, right? But for many reasons, women find themselves alone and they're not finding the quality of partners around them. And I'm speaking only, about the heterosexual world because that's no discrimination about that at all. It's
Yeah.
just that, right? They look around and they don't have a partner. So, well, until and unless you find a partner, you need to be your own shiro.
Mm,
And I've had that experience in my life. And so I think, you know what? Be your own strength and shiro and create your own security, because that's a big deal. Women want security. Men want glory a lot of times, and women want security.
yes.
It's like a thing I've seen over the
Yes.
years. It's been my experience that women want that security. It has to do with having children and protection and, growth and all of that. So that's just a thing. So I think it's important for women to get this money thing handled, and address this. And if you can and you don't have to your partner does not have to be a male romantic lover partner husband. It doesn't have to be that way. You can have other partners. I'm not saying it's ideal or not ideal or whatever. It doesn't, that's not relevant at all. What is relevant is that you don't wait to take care of yourself financially until you find that partner. If you want to, you're free to do that, but we have options. We can work on our own financial independence while we're, deciding if we want to have a family or have a partner, or if a woman wants to stay single for a while, they have the options today. We have options that we didn't have before.
Mm. I love that now, and it's so true. We have options now, and we need to. So many women I speak with, they're trying to find their way, trying to build their own income, so they have that stability that they need, a sound mind, I guess, a peace of mind, I should say, for financial wellness. What would 3 books would you recommend for someone wanting to get started in real estate investing?
I haven't read a real estate book in a long time, other than my commercial academy manuals. Okay, 21 ways of stop chasing hustle and use real estate to fund your dream life, which I have to publish. I really do think that it's a powerful book. Apparently, it really inspired my editor, and you're inspiring me to keep on it with
You
keep on
need
and
to
get that thing out there. I know,
get
I
it
know, I know.
out.
I've been writing offers on 88,000 square foot shopping centers. I've been distracted.
I
And
mean,
in order to do that, I had to go through a bunch of, and it is what it is, right? So,
oh my
but
God.
yeah, but no, that actually will be a great one. Really, truthfully, I would just go on Amazon and just start looking at books because we all have our orientation, right? Go on to Bigger Pockets, listen to podcasts like this one. Get yourself, just kind of figure it out, because everybody's got their own orientation. Mine was nothing down, but that was years ago, and that really inspired me. The book I'm reading right now is Commercial Real Estate for Dummies, and I love it because it's just like basic, but it's good and it's solid, right? So that's another one. yeah, I don't think there's enough women who write books on commercial real estate or on real estate. So I think there's a space for my book. There is a space for my book. So, um, but just, follow your orientations and get educated. Now we have so much information available. It's an awesome thing to have this much information available, so quickly.
It really is. I'm gonna chat GBT so much stuff after we get off here that you've shared. Um, this has been absolutely incredible. Your wisdom, your experience and passion, empowering other women is just truly inspiring. And thank you so much for being here today. And before we really wrap up, I want to make sure that our listeners know how to connect with you and even potentially work with you. What's the best way for them to do that?
On Facebook, private message me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Ginger Crystal Faith. I don't have a business page anymore. I opened up a brand new one. But they shut down my old one. You know how it happens sometimes randomly get shut down. But I'm pretty much all over social media. I also this podcast will end up on my YouTube channel, right? So when I get the transcript, so I have a YouTube channel with like 170 videos. We just talk about all sorts of things having to do with real estate, and also the last 30 podcasts I've been in. So, yeah, if you just Ginger Crystal Faith Real Estate Broker, I am not hard to find at all. Womenswealthnetwork.net is my current website, but I am developing another one, which will be more oriented. It's called Real Estate is the Remedy, and it's going to be more oriented to passive income, and it's going to be dovetailing with my book specifically. So.
Well, we need to get your book out there because so
I,
many
I am. I am. I promise I will get it. Okay.
people when you get it ready, let's have you back on too so we can do a proper
Okay, okay.
launch
I'll
for you.
make a PR announcement to all my podcasters. Let's talk about your book. Yeah. Yeah, it is good. It inspired me when I read it. The only thing I was like, I need more stories. So I got to get stories in there. So I think that's probably what I need to do. So, chunk it down. When you got a task that's daunting, right? Just chunk it down. All I need to do, if I can get like 20 great stories and then give them to my editor and say, here, throw these in where they make sense, right? Because yeah.
Sure you have them. I'm sure
I
you get it.
do.
Okay, let's get it done. Let's get it done, Ginger.
All right. That's what I do. I'm gonna get my editor 20 stories. Like, throw these in here.
Throw it in. That's what they get paid to do. So,
That's right. That's right.
all right. If you've been sitting on the sidelines thinking about real estate investing, let Ginger's story be your wake-up call. And if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. So, Ginger isn't just proof that women can build wealth. She's proof that we can build it on our own terms, in our own lane, and with other women beside us. This is a woman who has not only built incredible wealth over 30 years, but is actively teaching other women how to do the same. And so when she gets her book published and has that ready, go out and buy that book too. She is proof that with the right knowledge, strategy, mindset, you can build generational wealth and retire on your own terms. I know that's our goal. That's my goal. So, Ginger, just thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your commitment to helping women build wealth, avoid pitfalls, exactly what our Mommas Who Lead community needs to hear. And so, to all of our amazing listeners, remember you don't have to choose between being just a great mom and being a successful investor. You can actually be both, and you can lead in every area of your life. So, until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep believing in what's possible.